flip side of this, let's look at something on the other side of the ball that I feel like has a chance to be maybe more positive than we expected. We've been very hesitant to set high expectations from Mike Williams early in the season. Sounds like he's going to start doing team drills. This is going to be in team drills this week. And he's been out there with the team the past few weeks. It feels more of a situation where he's going to start week one and play. I don't think he's going to play 60, 70 snaps. I feel like he's going to play 30 or 40 snaps week one.
Okay.
I feel like with how he's been out there and how he's going to get integrated into team, it just feels like, I don't know. I think the Jets deliberately sort of downplayed his availability early in the season. And they did this with Brees last year. And no one is Brees. Brees is an alien. They downplayed like how involved he would be. And he was pretty involved right out of the gate. So maybe 40 is ambitious, but I feel like he's going to start and he's going to play a meaningful amount of reps week one. How the rest of those reps are divided up isn't even really going to dovetail into who sticks on this 53, because any receiver who might not make the 53 wouldn't be active or getting reps week one anyway. Those reps are going to go to Lazard, Gibson, and to a lesser extent, Corley. I think, and we've implied this a bit, Gibson's going to feel like play a decent amount more on offense than people expect, especially early in the season.
I think more than Corley, personally.
Way more than Corley.
Like,
Corley had
close.
Corley had a pretty quiet summer, and we know how the Jets are with rookies. It just feels like it will be a slow ramp up for him, and it's a week 6, week 7 thing where if Gibson is quiet for a week or two, maybe there's more of a push there. But I'm very curious to see the rep division behind Garrett Wilson. I feel like it will be roughly equally split between Mike Williams, Lazard, and Gibson, depending on the personnel groups that they use. And it was also a really quiet summer for Ruckert, which is why I'm interested to see what they do with the tight end position, because Yabo is more of a special teamer. Kuntz isn't going to make the team. Do they keep Ferguson, but is he really going to play a ton behind Conklin? I think you're going to get a lot of Xavier Gibson in the offense week one, but I do think there's going to be a meaningful amount of Mike Williams. And I don't think anyone else is going to be in contention to get that many more reps. I don't think it's going to be Corley. I think he'll be active, but I don't think he's going to be a big factor in the offense. I mean, what are you expecting from Williams and from a receiver standpoint? Let's say the Jets have 65 snaps on offense against the Niners. Garrett plays all 65. Conklin's going to play 60, 65 snaps. How is it going to look after that?
I think Mike Williams will play between 18 and 25. And Once again, like, this is a scenario that you just never know, because teams they keep this so close to the vest, the medical opinions. Just going by trends of receivers coming off an ACL, it would be very uncommon for him week one. I always thought middle of October and on is when Mike Williams will be full. Maybe he's just had a really good recovery. Maybe, it's a 1-year deal, so they feel a little bit comfortable kind of pushing him a little bit more, rather than if this was Garrett Wilson coming off an ACL and you think Garrett Wilson's going to be a Jet for the next 7 years. Are you thrusting Garrett Wilson out there early and risking, damage off the surgery? And I'm not saying the Jets are going to risk damage with Mike Williams. It's just different ways of kind of projecting things. I think that Lazard might play more than we're ready for week one, because the reason why is that he's a big-bodied perimeter blocker, and Gibson is the furthest thing from that, where you're right, though. Ruckert had the concussion this summer. You would just, in theory, think the Jets would run a decent amount of 12 personnel, which would have Brees out there, Ruckert and Conklin, and then Garrett Wilson. And then if you're rotating the receivers, it'd be Mike Williams and Alan Lazard more often than not, because you want to run out of 12 personnel. And Gibson would come on the field for 11 personnel, and you can kind of play him in the slot, which I really like Xavier Gibson. I always tried to kind of preach that his way of making the team was to be a return specialist, but what made you sell yourself on him being worthy of a roster spot is that he's a developmental slot guy, where if your number 5 is a really good returner and he could play the slot in case of injury, that's a good use of a number 5 wide receiver on your roster. And this is what, in a way, hurts guys like Brownlee and Irv Charles. Irv Charles does nothing at wide receiver, and Brownlee does nothing at special teams. So how do you argue to always keep them as the 6th or 7th wide receiver? This is the roster gymnastics of the NFL. and why Gibson has really carved, like the Jets staff really likes Xavier Gibson. Clearly, got a little banged up in the beginning of camp, and everybody's like, all right, relax. Like, you don't really need to push it here. They just have a confidence in him. So the thing that I don't like about Gibson in 11 personnel, and maybe they proved me wrong here, is I don't want him just cemented in the slot, because I think with an alpha wide receiver like Garrett Wilson, you need to use him exactly like CeeDee Lamb, where he plays inside and outside. And if he's seeing bracket coverage or any kind of coverage that is, mitigating his usage on the outside, then you got to start moving him around the formation, and putting him in the slot is how you get him going. So that's something they need to be a little bit careful with. And I think they will be. I'm just fascinated by the personnel in general out of the gate, because I feel like if you ask this question, like say everyone's healthy and it's the Halloween game. Okay, Garrett Wilson and Mike Williams are your 2 wide receivers. And then you kind of get this rotating cast of characters where Gibson will get looks, Lazard will get looks. Once again, I think Lazard will be better this year. I don't think he'll ever be anything close to what that contract was that they gave him. But the value of Lazard in their eyes is that he's a big body that can block on the perimeter. And this is a team that thinks they can absolutely run the shit out of the football. And if that's the case, that makes Lazard valuable in some ways, where if Mike Williams is coming off an ACL and I have him for 25 of the 60 offensive snaps, do I want 15 of his 25 snaps to be him blocking on the perimeter? Personally, not really. I don't. That's like blocking in the NFL really wears down the body. It's look at how the Rams use their wide receivers quietly all those years. Cooper Kupp, and now last year Puka Nacua. Those guys are asked to block a lot, and their bodies go through a lot. So I think that's going to be a big role for Lazard. I don't know. I don't really know if we'll see Corley at all. Maybe they draw up 2 touches for him. But if you're the opposition and Corley's on the field and you see him going in jet motion, you almost think that he should be used as a decoy, because you should know why he's on the field. I almost feel like you put Corley in the jet motion and you throw Garrett Wilson a screen or a slant or get him going to the end around. It's kind of the funky thing of it, where Corley has to round out his game to be useful, or else you know exactly what he's going to do. If Corley's on the field and he's just a screen merchant or a jet sweep merchant, like, teams are going to catch on to that. So, and I think he will round out his game a little bit, but that's why I don't know if he's a big impact rookie weeks 1 through 6, and we'll see. So the it's an interesting spot for the Jets, that this offense will be very narrow out of the gate, because it'll be very fixated on Garrett Wilson and Breece Hall. And that kind of gives me the argument that Braylon Allen should get 6 to 10 touches every game in September. I really, really mean that, because if Breece is getting 15 carries, but he's also getting 5 to 7 targets, that's 20 plus touches for Breece out of the gate. And if you're running the ball as much as we think you are, that leaves the door wide open for Braylon Allen to get touches. And if I'm on 2nd and 3, right, and the defense keeps 3 linebackers on the field, or they're just playing a little heavier, do I have to run Breece Hall into the front 7 like a battering ram on 2nd and 3 that I feel really good about converting behind Elijah Vera Tucker and Morgan Moses? No. I'll run the rookie, who's looked awesome this summer, as the battering ram to get me the damn 3 yards. So I think that's something that we're starting to overlook, that Braylon Allen was not like this July and August. He looks pretty good as the RB2. Braylon Allen looks like a guy that I could trust and keep Breece's body a little bit more fresh throughout the course of the season now.
Yeah, I mean, at least with Braylon, we've seen it this summer. Like, he's looked very impressive all throughout practice. He's looked impressive in the preseason. What I worry a little bit about on offense is we're talking a lot about Gibson and Ruckert, and neither of those guys did anything this summer. And it's not like they're very well-established, proven veterans. Like, a lot of time missed, didn't play in the preseason at all.
Tim Patrick's season, I guess.